Brothers Osborne, stay a little longer.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. It's Brian stepping in to hang out with you overnight. Thanks so much for listening. We have a special guest joining us over the phone all night long. I'll tell you who that is in about 10 minutes. It's Luke Bryan on the Wolf. New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7, 98.3 for downtown Syracuse. I'm Brian hanging out with you overnight. Thanks so much for having us on. We have a great show for you tonight, so you're in for a real treat because we are chatting with meteorologist Chris Brandolino. You all know him. He was on TV for about 16 years here in central New York between both CNY Central and News Channel 9. He's now over pursuing a great new job opportunity in Auckland, New Zealand. Hey, Chris, it sounds like everything's going pretty well for you over there, huh? Getting ready for the holidays?
Hey, Brian. Yeah, things are going pretty good here down in Kiwi country, New Zealand. Just to kind of bring people up to speed, we moved down here in, January of 2014, so it's been nearly 2 years. One thing I haven't got used to is the association of weather or season with, say, holidays. For example, as you know, it's November, and you see Christmas decorations, as you would. But it's summer. You'll see Christmas decorations next to boogie boards or surfboards, and it's just very confusing. I'm sure for those who maybe lived in perhaps Florida or Southern California or maybe even Hawaii, that's something perhaps you got used to seeing, but it's very weird here going into summer.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be kind of weird seeing people on surfboards this time of year during the holiday season after living in central New York for so long. I mean, it's definitely not surfboard weather here in Syracuse this time of year, that's for sure. And hey, we'll continue to chat with you throughout the show tonight, and thanks so much for taking the time to do this. I'm sure people are going to love this. It's New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7, 98.3 for downtown Syracuse. New Country, Wolf, and if you want to win your way into that Luke Bryan show on April 9th, you better be listening to Skip Clark every afternoon this week between 3 and 7. He has a chance for you to win top price tickets. It's Cole Swindell.
Anything goes. Florida-Georgia line.
New Country, the Wolf wants to stuff the bus. It's our annual New York City holiday shopping trip on Monday, December 7th. Go to wolf1051.com for tickets. Tim McGraw on the Wolf.
Carrie Underwood, Smoke Break.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. It's Brian with you overnight, and we're going to chat more with our special guest in about 10 minutes. But first, Eli Young Band is up next on the Wolf.
Jenna Kramer, I got the boy.
New Country, the Wolf, it's Brian hanging out with you overnight, along with special guest on the phone, meteorologist Chris Brandolino, who is now in New Zealand. You all remember him from TV here in Syracuse. He was on for about 16 years. And Chris, a lot of people are probably wondering, including myself, why you keep moving across the world. Before you went to Australia, now you're in New Zealand. Is the lifestyle just that much better over there compared to Syracuse? Or is your career just that much better there, and that's why you keep leaving?
It's important to remind people that, people often ask me, why did you leave? Or, are you coming back? Or, and those are very, especially coming back, those are all very flattering and nice things to hear. I'm very blessed to have the people who have enjoyed watching me and following me over the years in central New York. 16 years in TV there, it's quite a while. I guess what I'm getting at, it's important to remember, and I like to remind people, the reason I left central New York was not because of my job or because of the people or because of whatever. It was because of the hours. I loved my job. I did not love the hours. I was kind of a jerk late afternoon when the kids would come home from school.
No, I can't picture you being a jerk to your kids. That's not like you.
And, I go to bed at 6. I would have to go to bed at 6 in the evening to get up at about 1 o'clock in the morning. And
wow, a 1 o'clock in the morning alarm, I can't even imagine that one. God bless you for doing that for so long.
And it just wasn't happening. From 4 to 6, my last 2 hours, the last 2 hours of anybody's day, you tend to like to unwind and take it easy. But unfortunately, I had to wind up and, cook dinner and do the things you do with young children. And, as kids do, they blow off steam when they get out of school, especially younger ones. And it just wasn't a good recipe. So, yeah, it wasn't a job. I still love doing presenting in front of a camera. Now, in my current role, I don't do it as much, at least not yet. That'll be changed, I believe. And I still have that outlet. And that's something I've always liked and will like. So, again, it wasn't the job, it was the hours that that really forced my hand.
Well, Chris, to be honest, I can't say I blame you. I wouldn't like waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning 5 days a week either, especially with the family that, you never get the chance to see because you're going to bed when they're getting home. So definitely a reasonable decision on your part. We'll have more with Chris coming up next hour. New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7, 98.3 for downtown Syracuse. New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. Old Dominion coming to Kegs Canalside in Jordan on Saturday, December 19th. You can get tickets online, kegscanalside.net. More info, as always, wolf1051.com. Break up with him on the Wolf.
Hey, girl.
Chris Young, I'm coming over.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7, 98.3 for downtown and 101.5 in Oneida. And we've been telling you for a while now about this Wolf Unrivaled Ladies Night Out. It's Magic Mike XXL. It's this Saturday now at the Palace Theater in Eastwood. VIP has sold out, but general admission is still available. Better hurry up. Get to wolf1051.com for tickets.
Dan and Shay, nothing like you.
New Country, The Wolf. It's Brian with you overnight, and we've been chatting with a special guest all night long, and he'll be with us for the rest of the show as well. I'm not going to tell you who it is in case you're just tuning in, but we'll chat more with him in about 10 minutes. Kenny Chesney, Till It's Gone on The Wolf. New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. It's Brian keeping you company while you work the third shift tonight. And keeping me company over the phone is meteorologist Chris Brandolino, our special guest for the night. And you all know him from TV here in central New York. And Chris, now that you're in New Zealand, can you give us a nice summary of what that country is like? Is it like paradise like we all think it is?
In terms of New Zealand as a whole, it's a small country in the Southwest Pacific. It's about a 4-hour plane ride from Sydney or Melbourne, depending on what city you're going to. So there is a fair bit of distance between the two countries, but that's basically the closest country. It's laid back, quite laid back.
Oh yeah, I can definitely tell by the way you're talking. You're just all calm, cool, and collected over there.
I like my hours better, that's for sure. I have a better work-life balance, so I'm not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I beg your pardon, I am getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to bed at 6 o'clock in the evening.
That's got to be a nice change. Definitely better than waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning like you did here in Syracuse.
That is a positive. And my wife has told me she notices a big difference in terms of just being more pleasant. So, and again, that wasn't sustainable to keep those hours going, at least not for me. Some people can do it. People who have with a family, perhaps they're better equipped to handle it than I, and God bless them for doing that. But for me, it just wasn't sustainable. Going to bed at 6 and piecing out on my wife, and she became a single parent basically from 6 p.m. to, from the time I saw her next day at 1 p.m.
Oh, yeah, that must have been rough. But glad to hear you get to work much more normal hours now, so you get to be with your family a lot more than you did here when you were in central New York. Hey, it's been great talking to you, and we'll talk with you more again next hour. It's New Country, The Wolf. New Country, The Wolf. I'm Brian with you overnight. Thanks so much for listening. We have Thomas Rhett coming up, but first, the Brothers Osborne. They're going to stay a little longer. It's New Country, The Wolf.
Cole Swindell, let me see you, girl.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. Brian with you. And if you want to win yourself a pair of top-price tickets to the Luke Bryan concert on April 9th, before they even go on sale on Friday, you better listen to Skip Clark every afternoon this week between 3 and 7. You have to sing the correct song lyrics and you can win yourself those tickets. Parmalee on the Wolf.
Anything goes. Florida-Georgia line.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. It's Brian hanging out with you overnight. And coming up in about 3 songs, we're going to chat with our special guest that's been with us all night long and will continue to be. But first, Lee Brice, A Woman Like You on the Wolf.
Jason Aldean, gonna know we were here.
New Country, Wolf, it's Brian hanging out with you overnight. We really appreciate you having us on tonight, and we are joined by our special guest over the phone from New Zealand. It is meteorologist Chris Brandolino. You all know him from TV here in Syracuse. And Chris, what's the school system like over there? Are your kids adjusting to it pretty well?
Kids have adjusted wonderfully. The schools are pretty nice. It's not as test driven, so as a parent, I find that quite enjoyable. I think that's important. I mean, tests are always important, but it's a different sort of point of view, you could say. The kids go in terms of 4, and each term is separated by a 2-week break. And summer holidays or summer vacation is about, I think it's about 6 weeks long. So it's not nearly the same length as it is in the States, typically around 10 weeks. But again, they get those breaks in between the terms.
All right, that's pretty interesting. Definitely a lot different than here in the United States with the long summer break. And how about the cost of living over there? Is it really as expensive as it's made out to be?
The cost of living is quite high in Auckland. You know, it's not like central New York where you can buy a decent home for $100,000 to $200,000. You know, it's you know, a decent, that same home for $100,000 or $200,000 US in central New York, it will cost you, I don't know, $1 to $2 million in New Zealand. Maybe not two, but boy, $1.5 million, that's for sure. And depending on where you are, it could be $2 million. So it's you know, it's an island that is restricted in terms of resources. There's a lot of net immigration or migration. So it's supply and demand. So that's a little frustrating because that's just how it is. You know, those things you can't control. Things like food, you know, is more expensive. Economies of scale comes in. You know, we're able to produce much more quantity. You get it at a reduced price. Just think of BJ's and compare it to a convenience store. You know, you're able to get a better deal or a better price per quantity at a wholesale because it's economies of scale.
Wow, so it's definitely as expensive as it's made out to be, that is for sure. Definitely out of my price range. I don't know how you do it. Hope they pay you pretty well over there. Hey, in about an hour, I'm going to give you a call back. I've had you on the phone long enough running up your phone bill. But I want to get your thoughts on the upcoming winter here in central New York. It's been really warm so far. I mean, we had 3 days in the 70s last week. So is that going to continue, or is it going to be cold and snowy like last winter? I'll get your thoughts on that next hour here on The Wolf. Carrie Underwood's taking a smoke break. New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7.
Break up with him. Old Dominion.
New Country The Wolf wants to stuff the bus. It's our annual New York City holiday shopping trip. It's on Monday, December 7th, and we'll get you home by midnight. Tickets online that start at $65. Wolf1051.com. Cam on The Wolf.
Chris Young, I'm coming over.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. Good morning, it's Brian with you, and we've been chatting with a mystery meteorologist all throughout the show, and we'll chat more with him in about 10 minutes about the upcoming winter here in central New York. Florida Georgia Line's up next.
Kelsey Ballerini, Dibs.
New Country, Wolf 105.1, 96.7. Is Brian hanging out with you early this morning? Thanks so much for waking up with the Wolf. And our special guest throughout the entire show has been meteorologist Chris Brandolino. You all know him from TV in central New York. He was on for about 16 years. Then he moved to New Zealand, which is where he is now. And I wanted to get his thoughts on the upcoming winter here in central New York. So I'm going to give him a call back at home since it is daytime there where it's early in the morning here. Now let's see what he says about this upcoming winter here in central New York.
Hey, Brian, Kyoto.
Hey, Chris, what's Kyoto mean?
Kyoto is it's a greeting in Maori. Maori is are the native indigenous people of New Zealand. And it has a meaning. It's a term that has multi-meaning. So it can mean hello, mean good health. It can mean thank you. You know, in a lot of ways, what aloha means, say, in Hawaii.
Well, you learn something new every day, don't you, Chris? Hey, how about your thoughts on the upcoming winter here in Syracuse and central New York?
Yes, on to the winter outlook. So here's what we're thinking. Basically, in a nutshell, a warm, mild start to the winter. And I think a more winter-like or even a harsher finish. Here's why. It's El Nino. Simple as that. El Nino is a climate driver. It drives and influences climate, weather conditions across the globe. Now, in some areas, it has a more profound and direct impact. In other areas, not so much. Upstate New York, Northeast, we're in those not so much, not huge impact in terms of direct impact, but there is an influence. So with El Nino, you have all this warm water basically from the international date line right along the equator, east to South America. Again, right along the equator, give or take either side. And that tends to disrupt the weather systems. It disrupts what's called the Walker circulation. That is the circulation that is influenced by the placement of warm water and creating showers and thunderstorms, etc. Enough of that. So with El Nino being so strong, second only to 1997 and 98, going back to 1950. So second, maybe the strongest on record. That's what we're dealing with. That will influence the weather early in the season. It typically peaks El Nino around Christmas time. That's what El Nino means, the Christ child. So I think for December and even into January, we're going to find temperatures milder than usual. Doesn't mean there won't be cold snaps. Doesn't mean there won't be snow events. But what it does mean is that when you look at those 2 months, you're going to find more days of milder than usual weather than you typically would find, okay? And I think as El Nino tends to weaken, there are indications that once we get into January and February, El Nino will weaken and may weaken quite rapidly. And when that happens, I think we'll start to see El Nino and its influence begin to diminish in central New York, and we'll start to see more, shall we say, proper winter conditions as we know it. I think we'll find a rougher second half of the winter, February, probably even in March. So basically, I think we'll find a slow start to winter.
So unfortunately, it's probably not looking too good for people who want a white Christmas, is it?
Probably a green Christmas, but who knows? Probably less lake effect snow because you need cold air to generate lake effect snow to create that temperature difference. So, and then as we get into January and February, there could be some significant lake effect events because the lake probably will be a bit warmer than it usually is.
So it'll be swimmable?
I'm not saying it'll be good for a swim, but I'm saying that it'll be warmer than it usually is because of the lack of cold weather. And once the cold air decides to come on in, there could be some significant lake effect snow events. I could see certainly more snow in February versus January. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were more snow in March when you compare it to December. So that's it in a nutshell.
So you're saying a milder than normal start to the winter in December and January, and then
much more harsher and proper winter-like weather as we get into February and even into March.
All right, folks, there you have it. Your official Chris Brandolino winter outlook for this coming winter here in central New York. Thanks a lot, Chris. Make sure you stay in touch, all right, man?
All right, Brian, not a problem. Pleasure chatting with you, and stay in touch. Yeah, likewise. I will do my best to stay in touch, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions about weather or whatever, and maybe that's a good way we can stay in touch, especially with you and the rest of the people in CNY. And have a great Thanksgiving. We don't celebrate that in New Zealand. So, yeah, turkeys are like $100.
$100? Are you kidding?
Like a 15-pound turkey you might get at Wegmans or, whatever. That same bird, it'll be $150. I'm not kidding you.
Wow, that's insane. Now I see why you don't celebrate Thanksgiving there.
Unreal.
All right, thanks again, Chris. Talk to you later. New Country, Wolf, it's Brian, and our special guest for the entire show has been meteorologist Chris Brandolino, who is now in New Zealand, joining us via phone. And Chris, I believe you had some final thoughts about possibly staying in touch through social media?
Yeah, Brian, it'll be great to stay in touch with people in Central New York. I'm on Twitter, at Chris Brandolino is my Twitter handle, or at NEWA Weather. That's my professional or work Twitter handle. So either one may be a good way to kind of keep up to date as to what's going on in this end of the world. I do have a Facebook page. When I do update it, I do try to put some decent content like pictures. So anyway, yeah, it's I think it's just Chris Brandolino, the Facebook page. And look forward to keeping in touch. If you have any messages or any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And thanks again.
No, thank you, Chris. It's Dan and Shay, nothing like you, on The Wolf.
I remember when Brothers Osborne, stay a little longer.
New Country, Wolf, it's Brian. Hope you enjoyed our conversations with Chris Brandolino all throughout the show. He's sure loving life down in New Zealand, that's for sure. I'm stepping out. I'll leave you with Low Cash on The Wolf.